My friends. Good morning, my friend. Good morning. Hey, it's Monday. Beautiful day outside.
It is Monday.
It is Monday.
You have correctly
Answered that question.
answered.
Made an observation. And we're back on lockdown. Yeah. Lockdown. I feel bad for all the people that their kids were supposed to go back to school and they don't get to. Homeschool.
That's not new news.
It is new news
No,
because
it's
it
old
just
news.
happened today. It's old news.
Old news.
You know who I find fascinating?
Who?
Inventors. Have you ever known an inventor? Don't you have somebody in your family that was an inventor? No?
What's fascinating about inventors?
Well, they solve problems that you didn't necessarily know you ever had. Like, you know what invention I find fascinating? Velcro.
Oh, yeah.
That guy that made Velcro.
That guy.
Yeah. And he got it from some sort of plant, I think. It was like I forget, I saw a thing on it. But Velcro is everywhere.
Look, it's our friend Michael.
Hey, Michael, good morning. Michael, the designer.
Good morning, Michael.
Crushing the flower game over on Maryville. W Flowers. Ooh, ooh. You haven't got flowers for a little while. Maybe that's a road trip. Oh, we're not allowed to go out. Are we allowed to get home? Are flowers essential?
Flowers are very essential.
I think for some people, flowers are super essential.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, I think gardening is essential. Mm-hmm. People love gardening. I never got that. Do you like gardening?
Interesting. I saw somebody post about, just that whole idea of like, let's be careful try not to judge other people, because maybe some people like doing construction around their house is actually essential.
I know. I heard all the mass complaints due to the
rules. Some people need to be busy.
A can of paint could be essential to somebody's mental health, like painting their house and doing all those little things that keep you busy and sane. And my secret is, it's not a secret, but like not watching the news and not being especially Facebook, I can't even go on it, because what's happened is, because of the reaction of the Ontario government being so harsh, it's created this divide in two sides.
Yes, it has.
So it's kind of ugly.
And as you know, I'm not on Facebook anymore. It's been 6 weeks now.
Do you feel a piece of it? Do you feel like you're on break from it and want to return, or is it just something that you don't need in your life?
So I tried to return last week, 2 days, and then I was like,
did you?
Yeah.
You didn't tell me about this.
Yeah.
You're holding out?
Well, my reason, anyway, I just had to get back off. So it's not even so much about like that there's anybody in particular that's posting anything that I don't want to read. It's just more the fact of like, I can waste so much time there. And so, I thought, I'll go and I'll do this thing, and then I just was wasting time. And then I realized too, like, I think that maybe my emotional and mental well-being, like I actually can't care about so much. There's only so much I can,
or you can't absorb,
care about
all
or
of
absorb.
The things.
Yeah. I can't absorb all of the things. And so, and then I realized, wow, being on Facebook for 6 weeks, you realize like there's actually very few people that I'm in regular contact with. Mm-mm. There's very few people, like no one noticed that I wasn't there. And that's a weird feeling, but that was part of like the process of like, oh, why do I have this like deep seated need to be noticed? Right? What is this like thing inside of me to like, that I need to be seen or missed? Or
that's an interesting conversation, because that is one of our deep seated needs.
I've been journaling about it,
that God fulfills. Like we all have that, like to be noticed, to be recognized. That's a big deal.
Yeah. So, and then there was other things that I needed to be doing. And so it was just such a huge distraction from what I actually needed to be doing. And so it's been a big part of like my journaling process of actually like what's happening inside me here with this specifically. And so there was a little, there's a bit of a touch of like sadness around it too, of like, I've created this artificial, or I've used this artificial connection tool. And so then like, where do I actually need to connect or want to connect? Mm-hmm. And so then I have to be more intentional about, hey, I haven't talked to you in a little while. Like, what's happening in your life? But I actually haven't even really started doing that outside of like a really small circle because I just realized my capacity is super low.
So you're not condemning it. You took it away from your life, and it's showing you things.
Yeah,
it's having that taken away. It's showing you other
totally
things.
Showing me things about myself, and so
it's very vulnerable, Vicky. Very vulnerable. Yeah. I know. I've realized I've had a coffee already, and so my mind is already in 14 different places. But what would you invent if you had to invent something? Like if somebody said, like, we're going to invent it, you have a team.
Don't you think that if I could answer that question, that I would have invented something? Like I was the kind of person to invent.
But you don't have that in your mind. If that I know in my mind, I'm ready to invent something. If a team comes and says,
you want me to ask you the same question.
No, not necessarily.
What would you invent?
I would invent a way. I would invent an epilepsy awareness band or watch or something, so that it would be a monitoring thing for somebody having a seizure.
Yes, that exists, but not to the level. Yes, it does.
I can't find it.
Well, it's called anyway. It does exist, but not to the level that would be useful to all epileptics. It exists for grand mal seizures. It doesn't exist for the other kinds of seizures.
And in my mind, it
probably
would be
for good reason.
It would be easy to do, I think. Yeah, that would be my little invention. I think it would be helpful. Very niche market, but I think a lot of people. Actually, it's a problem that
not a super niche market. You know how many people have seizures?
Did you say 1 in 100
have a seizure in their life?
Okay, but how many people would be diagnosed with epilepsy?
I don't know that answer. I know that Michael said he would invent a garbageless society.
Zero waste.
Maybe he shops at the zero waste store where you have to bring your own container to purchase your groceries.
And then you would have this vat of acid on your counter, and you just drop everything in it and it just dissolves.
I don't know that I want a vat of acid on my counter.
Right next to your stove. Come on.
To be honest.
All right. Let's get into our morning devotionals. Do it. Okay.
Yeah, it's your turn.
All right. It's April the 19th. We do a morning devotional every morning as part of our relationship, but then our relationship with God as well. And so we invite you every day to be a part of this practice. This is a spiritual practice. And we also do this on our own as well. So we do our own separately, and then we do this together. Fun stuff. Accepting change. Oh, what a way to start the week with all the new lockdown rules. Accepting change. Change. The winds of change blow through our life. Sometimes gently, sometimes like a tropical storm. Yes, we have resting places, time to adjust to another level of living, time to get our balance, time to enjoy the rewards. We have time to catch our breath. But change is inevitable and desirable. Sometimes when the winds of change begin to rustle, we're not certain the change is for the better. We may call it stress or a temporary condition. Certain will be restored to normal. Sometimes we resist. We tuck our head down and buck the wind, hoping that things will quickly calm down, get back to the way things were. Is it possible we're being prepared for a new normal?
Wow. I hate this reading.
Change will sweep through our life as needed to take us where we're going. We can trust that God has a plan in mind, even when we don't know where the changes are leading. We can trust that the change taking place is good. The winds will take us where we need to go.
So just to be
No, I have not prayed the prayer. Prayer for today. Today, help me, God, to let go of my resistance to change. Help me be open to the process. Help me believe that the place I'll be dropped off will be better than the place where I was picked up. Help me surrender, trust, and accept, even if I don't understand. Amen. Go ahead.
So this part of the stress of what's happening right now in with this pandemic is that it's like a constant conversation, like everywhere we go. It's always like in the back of our minds. It's always in like every conversation, like if you're talking to somebody that you haven't talked to in a couple of days, that's what you're going to be talking about. And we see everything through that lens. And so that, I think, adds to like the weightiness and like the constant like, and I think we all feel exhausted by that. At least everybody I talk to. And that, you know, we start to see like some hope of like, oh, maybe things are going to go back to normal. And then, oh, no, it's not. So what I take away from this, and actually what I've tried to implement in my life in the last longer than a year, I do have an attitude of like trying to roll with things. Like I try to roll with things. Like, even if I think like it's really not like even if I'm really not okay with it, once a decision is not my decision anymore, like once a decision's been made, then I need to move on. You know, especially like whether it's my decision or the decision's made for me, like I just need to roll into like whatever's next and make the best of like that situation. And so I feel like I've brought that into, as best I can, I've brought that into this year with the pandemic. And I do think that if we dig in deep, you know, we can something really great for each of us individually and for us as a society or as a collective body, you know, whether it be like whatever group you connect into. So for us, you know, we connect into a church, we connect into a recovery community, and lots of good can come out of that. Like we can grow closer to each other as a family, we can grow closer to each other as a recovery community, but it has to be really intentional.
Well, one thing that change will cause is the ignition of the mental obsession. So once there's changes happening, big or small, I start thinking about them, and the mental obsession will trigger the spiritual sickness, the spiritual disconnect from God, and I start to get into worry. I start planning for the future. I start looking behind in resentment, and I can kind of veer off the course. And so one of the things that I've realized in running a rehab center is that I tell the guys like lunchtime changes, and it's like there's a mutiny, and I'm like, guys, things are going to change. You're going to start to like understand different, like your life is going to change constantly in recovery, and
just in life in just general, changes all the time.
But even for the good, and the key word for me is trust and accept. Trust not in our government, not in our family, but trust in God that He knows best. And when I give my life to Him, that He is a good dad and has the best for me. So change is going to happen because I don't want to stay stuck where I am. And so change is a great thing. It can be uncomfortable. And if not treated in my mind, it's going to cause other issues. And so like a lot of people in the pandemic have not treated change effectively and went in relapse, because when I'm disconnected from God, when I'm full of a mental obsession, it'll bring me back to going to get ease and comfort. And so lots of relapses during the last year, and lots of people have lost their lives because
but I also know that I know of people who have recognized, you know, oh wow, I think I'm, you know, maybe was talking with someone who was talking with someone the other day who said like, I'm drinking too much. Like I'm drinking way too much. And so I stopped drinking and I haven't drank in 45 days. And then just that conversation of like, does she think she's an alcoholic? No, not necessarily. Like she just recognized like, oh, I had some really bad coping mechanisms. And so that's a really good, you know, conversation to like actually be willing to have with other people of like, I see that this thing is, you know, we have another friend who recognized that she was online shopping. And even when she stopped buying things, she was still online shopping. And so she'd have all these things sitting in all these online carts. And so she wasn't buying them, but she was still spending all this time and energy online shopping because she was looking for, you know, an outlet. Right. And so what is another outlet that we can look for when we recognize like, oh, this actually isn't working really well for me. I need to do something different. And so getting together with like other people who, and saying like, hey, this is what's happening with me. And I really want to, you know, redirect it. And so let's do this together, or at least could we talk? And,
you know, one practical thing that we can do is write down all the things that are changing. And so that we can actually see it and just go, oh, these are actually happening. This is actually changing. And I don't like this, but can I accept it? Right. And then do I bring God into it? And then another thing, if you're really struggling, in the link below, we have our LifeLab 17-week course. We would love for you to be a part of that. So join us, and we'll see you tomorrow. Wash your hands, stay inside, share, comment, subscribe. Keep the peace and be of good behavior. And we will see you tomorrow. Have a great day and get some sun out there.